I would like to invite Som Kachori. He is the founder of AI Palette. He will tell us how Singapore companies are supporting food manufacturing companies in innovation space. Som, thank you very much.
Thank you, Angela. Good morning, everyone who has joined us bright and early from Latin America and Central America. And good evening to everyone in Singapore. So let me share my screen and then I would talk about how the Singaporean companies are also helping the food manufacturing companies in Singapore. No industry can exist in isolation. It needs a strong ecosystem of partners who can help them grow and survive. And Singapore provides us so. Before I dive into the topic, a little bit of background about me. I'm Som, the co-founder and CEO of AI Palette. I come with a background of over a decade in the food and beverage industry. I became an entrepreneur by accident. In my last role, I was looking how companies can use artificial intelligence and machine learning. And when I started looking for solution providers, I could not find many beyond the likes of IBM and Microsoft. So I decided to build a company myself to help the food companies with their new product innovation. So at AI Palette, we analyze the big data around food using our patented algorithm and help the companies identify what product they should launch next. For example, if a beverage company wants to launch a new juice in a market like Thailand, our platform will tell them what juice they should launch next so that it is successful. So one of the interesting things about Singapore is that it's not just looking to become a food hub, it is also a deep tech hub. The government of Singapore invested heavily to attract companies to set up companies in the space of deep tech. So be it companies in the field of artificial intelligence, blockchain, or biotechnology, you will find a host of companies who have established over here. And among all of these companies, there are multiple companies who today support the food ecosystem. So if we look into the new product development process, it can broadly be divided into these four buckets. We know it all. It starts with understanding the market, what the consumers really want, see the opportunity. Once you have understood the market, then you move to ideation, where you identify what type of product you should be launching into the market, validate the ideas. Then you do prototyping, create the products in the lab. And once you're satisfied with the product, then you go and produce. And for each and every stage of this product, we have different objectives. There are multiple challenges, and those challenges can be solved using the power of technology. And I'll today talk about which are some of these companies and what kind of technologies they use to help you really accelerate your process or make your process more efficient. So the first step in this process is really understanding what the consumer demands are, what the consumer needs are, and what product you should launch into the market. And here, as a company, we really want to understand and discover the trends early so that we can have a fast mover advantage, because we don't want to be a follower into the market and launch a product after 3 or 4 other people have launched it into the market. Then the second objective is to really understand the consumer needs. And if we can do it in real time, nothing better than that, because that can again help us to be the fast mover into the market. And once you have done that, then you can really anticipate what the market is growing, what is going to come next, and sort of predict the future and create a product around it. Now, these are very nice objectives, but it has its own challenges. The challenge here is that when you try to understand a landscape, you need to deal with a lot of data. And the data is not always structured. And sometimes it can be really, really big and run into millions of data points. And the second challenge for Asia is that the data is multilingual. Each and every country has its own languages, has its own script. So how can you make sense of those different data points so that you can really understand what the market really wants? Because food and beverage preferences are also driven by the local nuances and the local cultures. And the final challenge is to really identify and get the data from the different platforms. Now, again, each market has its own platforms from which we can collect the data and need to analyze the data. Now, in this particular space, AI palette plays. What we do is that we analyze the online big data around food coming from multiple data sources, like the retail products, the food service products, the recipes, the search engine data, the social data, to identify the food trends in real time and also predict what the consumers are going to like next. And using the data, we have helped companies to identify what should be the next flavor variant they should be launching into the market, or it could be in terms of how they can position their product better, or in terms of how they can promote their product better. Now let's move on to the next stage, which is the stage of around ideation. So once you have understood the market and figured out the opportunity, you need to come out with different ideas. So the objectives in the stage of ideation is the ideas that you have created, how we can quickly validate them. Because we don't want to be too late in this particular process and wait for months for validation from the consumers. The second stage, and the most important was, is to make sure that whatever validation that we do doesn't have any bias from the consumers. You want as much unbiased opinion as you want. And the final one, if you can do early validation sometimes, so that it can again help you in accelerating the process. Instead of waiting 3 to 6 months to validate your idea, can you do it in weeks or even less than a month? The challenges here is that you need to reach out to the local respondents into the different markets where you want to launch that product. And you need to have a right partner who can give you that access. Second is you need to make sure that the data has its integrity, basis on which you are making the decisions. And as I talked about, it has to be unbiased. So which are the companies that today exist in the ecosystem and what kind of technologies that they use? So Neurosensum is one such company which uses neuroscience based on eye tracking or brain signal analysis to identify the preferences of the consumers. So you just bring in the consumers, and using their tracking devices, when the concepts are shown to them, Neurosensum can identify which concepts are creating the right reaction within the brain of the consumers. And thus you have an unbiased view of what the preferences of the consumers are. The second company is Outside Voice. So what Outside Voice does is that it uses the two most popular messaging platforms in Asia right now, WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. And using their network of respondents, you can reach out to the consumers and ask them questions. And the technology which is powering their platform is natural language processing. And they have a chatbot which, based on the response the respondents give to the questions, they ask the next relevant question. So it's not like a checklist of laundry list of questions that the consumers go through. It provides multiple questions based on the response it receives. And the data can be not just text, but also videos, audios, or even photos as well. After ideation, the next stage is, of course, prototyping. And this is the stage where we are creating the products in the lab. And the challenges here is that we want to reduce the trial and error that goes in this particular stage, or we need to create the prototype multiple times before we reach the final one. So how we can reach the final version with minimum number of trials. Second is to have the right sensory properties which would be liked by the local consumers in the market where we want to launch the products in Asia. And the last one is to making sure that the product is meeting the nutritional guidelines of the local body that is out there. And at this particular stage, we have a company called as How Foods based out of Singapore. So what they do is that they have their unique platform using which they are able to cut down the time that takes for prototyping. And the success rate of their first trial is anywhere between 60 to 70%. So they use a combination of identifying the ingredients, doing a matrix analysis, and an ingredient mapping to really help you to identify what should be the right product and within the nutritional guidelines. And they have a special focus when it comes to creating healthy foods for the consumer. And now moving on to the next stage is really the production. So we have identified the final prototype, and now we need to go and produce it in the factories in mass scales. Now, production has its own priorities and own challenges. The most important thing is production is efficiency. How can you have a really efficient system so that we can have the maximum production? And then, of course, is quality. You need to make sure that the product meets, each and every product meets the quality guidelines that you have. And after efficiency and quality, we need to make sure that the production process is safe, and any sort of risk which it comes to the machinery or maintenance, they are mitigated. And because the production process is so huge, we have a bunch of companies which are using some of the most sophisticated and advanced technologies that is available today. Enabling Win is a Singapore-based company which primarily focuses on snacks, bakery, and confectionery industry. And they really help you to identify what kind of machinery you should have if you're setting up a plant in Asia. They have a very strong network of machinery providers, and based on your unique requirement, they can help you in identifying how to set up the factory, reach the maximum efficiencies, and also how you can deal with the different bulk products that are out there. Then we have a company which helps you in scheduling. So if you have multiple products that you're producing in the same factory, you need to schedule when you will take production of what batch. And you can achieve maximum production if the scheduling is really, really right. So that's why Synchronous uses the most cutting edge AI technologies to identify how you should really schedule your different batches so that you can maximize each and every second. And that decision is taken based on the millions of historical data points that you might have. Then the next company is called Firevisor. So what Firevisor does is that it helps you in predictive maintenance. So the last thing you want is that you have a big production to take, and then you realize that halfway down the road, your machine breaks down. So what Firevisor does is that it really helps you in predicting when you should do the maintenance of your machines, and based on the data, if there is a problem your machine is going to encounter. And that really helps the companies in increasing their manufacturing profits by 15 to 30% as they are claiming. And their technology is again powered by some of the sophisticated AI tools like visual analytics, like image analytics, video analytics, and also data analytics. And after production, I have also one bonus slide on post-launch. So once you have launched the product in the market, what you really want to do is to see how your product is performing in the market, what the competition is doing, is your product stocked enough, how the consumers are interacting with your product. So that's where we have a local company called as Milky Way AI. And what Milky Way AI does is that using the camera that is there in the retail stores, it scans the shelves. And basis that shelf scanning, then you can see if your product is stocked right or not, because the last thing that you want is that a consumer goes into the supermarket, wants to buy your product, and then realizes that it's not available in the shelf. So Milky Way AI using the technology tells you when your product is running out of the shelves at a fair price or cold storage. And also you can see along with your products, how your competitors' products are being stacked, how those products are moving. So that way get a huge amount of data using which you can optimize your go-to-market strategy here. And again, this is a technology which can be used across multiple markets and multiple types of stores with ease. So what does the future now look like with all kinds of technologies which are there to help the food industry? So we see that as we move into the future, we would see the technology companies working very closely with the food and beverage companies. And it will reach a level when the food and beverage companies will actually depend on technology to give them a competitive edge over their competitors. So technology would be what will be uh, decide who will be the winner in the race. And Singapore as an ecosystem provides that kind of technology companies which can easily parallel or match what you would typically get in the Silicon Valley. And the best part is that because of the unique nature of the geographies, all the technologies that have been built works across multiple markets, not just in Singapore. So with that, I would like to end my talk today, and thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much. Don't know if there's any questions. I think since you are here with us, if you can tell us a little bit more about AI palette, because I saw that it's quite interesting. So for example, if we have a coffee company here, like 3-in-1, so how I can predict what in Asia markets, how they like it, if they like it more like sweeter, darker, coffee taste, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the kind of problem that we help our companies or our customers to solve, to identify the consumer preferences and consumer needs really, really well. And as we know that food and beverage preferences are very much local and driven by the food practices that they have. So what we do at AI Palette is that we take the big data around food. So coming from not just the retail data, but also look into the food service data, because that has a huge implication on the retail product ends. So what we do is that we scan the menus of the restaurants, we scan the recipes, and also we scan the food reviews that are out there. And using our language agnostic AI algorithm, we identify for a category like, say, coffee, what are the trending coffees that are there in a market like Singapore or Malaysia. And within the trends, what are the trends that are mature trend versus what is the new emerging and growing trends, so that companies can decide how and what kind of products they should be launching into the market. And a trend which is in its upward trajectory will help them in getting a significant win into the market. And then for each and every trend, we also predict how it is going to evolve in the future, in terms of, is it a trend which is going to go up, stay flat, or come down, so that we can take business decision with confidence. And most important, if consumers are consuming a particular type of product, why they are consuming it. So what kind of sensory attributes that the consumers prefer. So is it dark roasted, or do they want it more aromatic? Do they want more bitterness? Do they want it more sulfury? So those kind of product attributes we can identify. And then also we can identify what kind of other related drivers are important for them. What kind of health benefits consumers are looking for, or is there a particular type of consumption occasions which have come up recently, and consumers are consuming coffee around it. So those are the different types of information that really then helps the companies to decide what is the right product for the market that they want to tap into.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sam. I think it was a very good presentation, and also indeed very generous of you to show us the many other companies in Singapore and innovation. Thank you.